Romney's momentum versus Obama's coalition. Now, which of these narratives could prevail next Tuesday? We're going to talk with Jerry Seib. He is the host of the Campaign Journal and has been exploring this. Hey there, Jerry. Thanks for being with us.
Sure, happy to be here.
Let's talk about what you mean by momentum versus coalition. Explain a little bit about that.
Well, if you look at the basic narrative of each campaign in the last week or so, it comes down to that. The Romney campaign's view of the world is, look, we've got momentum. Momentum began building about a month ago for us, starting mostly with that now famous first debate and continuing up until now. And once things like that get entrained in a close election, they tend to continue all the way through Election Day. So that's what's going to happen. And they look at how state polls and battleground states have closed down, become very close, either close for Romney or in some cases ties for Romney, which is a marked change from a month ago, and say, look, we've got momentum. Momentum is all that really matters in a race that's this close. The Obama narrative is quite different, obviously. It says, look, there's an Obama coalition. It's as strong as it was at its core, even if it's a little frayed around the edges. That coalition hasn't shaken. The support for the president has been very solid. What you're seeing in these battleground states is people who were going to be for Mitt Romney anyway moving toward him. They were going to get there eventually anyway. And by the way, there isn't a single battleground state except perhaps North Carolina where Mitt Romney's actually ahead. So how much momentum does he really have? The important thing from our point of view in the Obama camp is our coalition, women, young voters, minority voters, is demographically growing, as bigger now than it was in 2008, and that'll be enough to hold off the Romney momentum. So those are your two competing narratives right now. Which one is right? You know, you get to pick. I don't think anybody really knows.
Let me get your take on this, Jerry. Does the storm impact Romney's momentum?
Well, that's the great problem from the Romney point of view. There is the danger here, I think, in the storm that it has the effect or could have the effect of slowing down that momentum if it's as real as the Romney people say. Now, there are others who will look at polling in a few days before the hurricane hit and say that the momentum was slowing anyway, that things had kind of evened out. National polls were pretty much dead even, and the state polls had settled out at either even or a slight edge for Obama. So maybe that momentum had already peaked a little bit. I don't think you can prove a negative. Nobody knows for sure. The one thing that is true, as Larry Sabato was just saying, is this has changed the conversation, has changed the direction. I'm not sure that it matters all that much because, as Larry also said, you don't have very many undecided voters left. But in a close race, marginal changes matter, and we're going to have to look at what the marginal effect of a hurricane is on the vote, probably in retrospect after November 6th.
Let's talk about two blocks of voters, young people as well as Hispanic voters, Jerry. If they don't come out to vote in droves, obviously that hurts President Obama's campaign. How likely do we think that is, you know, if the storm's impact continues to trickle in to next week? Do you think that that's going to really hurt him in some key battleground states?
Well, the only state where that probably really matters is Virginia, and it could matter there. Overall, you're right. I mean, the Hispanic vote could be the entire story of the election. The Hispanic vote was 2% of the electorate in 1992. It was 9% 4 years ago. It'll be higher if the Obama people have anything to say about it this year. And that's a block that's going, you know, almost 70%. For Barack Obama. So it's a huge advantage that he's got in that area. The question is, do they turn out? Do they turn out in Virginia? Similarly, young voters, do they show up in a state like Virginia and a state like Ohio? If they don't, Barack Obama's got some problems. Now, the argument in the Obama camp is that the volatility of the young vote is overstated, that it has crept up in the last few years, but it basically stays at about 16 or 17% of the electorate. That's where it was in 2004. That's where it was in 2008. That's where they think it'll be this time around. So they're saying essentially there's not a lot of variation in the young vote. The young vote will show up. It doesn't always show up in polls, but it shows up on Election Day. And if that happens, that's a really good thing for President Obama.